Check this thing out. Where's my... Oh, damn it. Please listen carefully. Harv and Pawn is live in 5, 4, 3, 2...
Hello?
Hey, Harv, Pawn here. Say, I just had an idea. You want to do a show with me?
I'm sorry, who is this?
Ronan Pawn, Harvey. We've worked together in the past. Pawn, Harvey. Pawn. It's Pawn. Pawn!
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I don't do porn anymore.
What? Hello? Harvey?
Harv, Pawn, Harv and Pawn, and
Hello, I am the Ronin Pawn.
And I am Harvey from HSC Gaming, and this is Harv and Pawn.
Because I'm the
Welcome.
pawn and he's the Harv, and so we decided
Yeah.
to put, and it's on the right sides too. Look, Harv, it's right over. If you lose, focus, you can't sort of figure it out. He's the Harv, I'm the pawn. The television that we just got is the and apparently. It's right there in the background. If you like that, it's,
Ampersand.
digging into petty cash like that for a TV, Harv. I was against it, at first. But you talked me into it, and we now are only negative $272 in the hole in petty cash.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and well, the thing is, Pawn, we discussed this beforehand, and we decided to run the pilot episode in order to test the waters and see whether it was worth making the investment. And it clearly was. So, welcome back to episode 0, the first episode of Harv and Pawn.
that's how maths work, everybody. And now that we are on episode 0, you can join us in chat on the TVs. And you'll be back there. I got the thing that's working at the
Oh
thing.
my lord!
Yeah.
The man is a technical genius.
It's, I just plugged the HDMI cable into and then the other thing, and then we routed through the... Harv's going to be blocking your view most of the time. It's fine.
Yeah. I hope you don't want to know who said what.
Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Today we're going to be talking about your favorite topic, piracy.
Dun, dun, dun.
But before we do, actually, Harv, I wanted to ask you about this. Do you know, because I'm only recently familiar with the term, do you know what a quick pot is?
No, I don't. What's a quick pot?
Okay. I thought you were going to... Like, quick pot? That sounds... You mean salvia? What are you talking about? I think that hits really hard really quick.
Quick pot, yeah.
No, so a quick pot is like... It's a crock pot that also does pressure cooking kind of a thing. It's basically an electrical thing that you can cook in.
Like an all-in-one kind of cooker thing.
Yeah, and sadly, like I asked for, last... And it was a year ago or more. Maybe my birthday or Christmas or something. I asked for a pressure cooker, because I'm familiar with pressure cooking. And if you want to cook some beans up and not have to spend all year waiting for them to cook, then you throw it in a pressure cooker. My mother went looking for a pressure cooker, and all she'd come up with is with this quick pot thing. And if anybody else has any experience with a quick pot, let me know if they suck as badly for you as they do for me, because... I burned my hand the lid wouldn't actually go down, and then the thing where the steam is supposed to come out just sort of flops around and everything, and literally I'm trying to push it down and see how, what's wrong? Is there a seal that I'm breaking here? And with my hand over it, the steam is pouring out from the sides and burns me. Just a piece of crap. One of a number of contraptions that I feel the modern world has come up with to solve problems that had already been solved, that were working just fine. And then it's like a pressure cooker, except for the whole it explodes sometimes thing, was perfect.
I mean, to be fair, it does just sound like you got a bit of a cheap knockoff version.
It was not. She paid good money for it, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, my girlfriend Julie had a rice cooker for the longest time, which was just beautiful at making rice. And I don't think it was even that expensive. And then I think recently she got one of these kind of all-in-one things which can just do everything. Like, you can boil, you can broil, you can steam, you can probably fry in it, I don't know. And you can do sous vide and all sorts if you have the correct plastic bags.
I don't even know what sous vide is. Is that a different strain of marijuana? What are we talking about now?
It's when you put raw meat into a plastic bag and then you boil it in the bag. So it keeps all the juices in it. It's French. As all weird cooking methods probably are.
Yeah. Whenever I don't know what a word is, it's certainly French. What was it that I was looking up? We were chatting beforehand. And, gauche. Gauche,
Gauche.
Oh, it's become gauche this season to wear black or something. I'm like, how do you spell gauche? And of course it's like Gauche, and it's French, and it just means left or something. And it's... You know, this is how you guys, by the way, ended up with friggin' rivers and towns that don't make it. Leicester is not spelled with an EIC. All right, I'm telling you that. And Thames is not pronounced Thames. I'm just.
Worcestershire. Worcestershire.
You mean
It was great. I had a
Worcestershire?
friend. Yeah, exactly. I remember taking. I've got a Ukrainian friend who may or may not be watching right now. Hi, Vlad. His name's Vlad. It's the most typical Ukrainian name possible. We went into Tesco's one day and came up across the Worcestershire sauce. And so I convinced him, yeah, it's Worcestershire. Yeah. He's like, Harvey, what? The recipe says it needs Worcestershire. Yeah, it's right there.
I mean, that's how it's written. Friggin'
Yeah, it makes sense.
pronunciationals.
Or no, it would be Worcestershire with a C though. How do you pronounce a lone C? Chi, C, K,
H.
lone C in the middle. Worcestershire.
I actually like that
Very
when I
breathy.
realized that, you know, the British pronunciation for H is H, and I'm like, hey, your pronunciation actually has that letter in it. Because if I were going to spell the way that we say H,
Wait,
it would be AIGHTCHQLM.
Wait. Say that again. Which way around is it? H for
Yeah.
British and H
No.
for American?
H for
Other way
British.
around?
You've got the
Oh,
at the yeah.
is that true? Because
That's
I
been my
have
observation.
I've been very deliberately trying to just say H without the at the start.
Yeah.
I think it might just be that the majority of us say it wrong, rather than being a
I like
correct
the fact.
pronunciation.
I like it. I actually have started. So you can say it that way, and I'll say it the other way because I've been doing that.
We
I've been
can,
turning it
yeah,
into
we can be the
H,
exceptions that prove
and
the
you know,
rule.
going
Yeah.
out of my way to say Z instead of Z.
Yeah, we have a lot of pronunciations of those small things which make less sense, don't we? Because Z just kind of seems like that's how you should pronounce it in many ways.
I don't know.
Plus,
Whatever
all
you
video game
have, you
titles are
like the
completely
other.
ruined.
Oh yeah, Dragon Ball Z.
Dragon Ball Z, yeah.
And Goku
The
comes
War
riding in on a
Z.
chopper. Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
We pronounce. I had a perfect example in mind. I mean, you've got tomatoes and tomatoes. What is the? I had another one. Never mind. Let's move
Bouncy,
on.
jumpy.
Oh, beta and beta. That's a good one. In gaming.
Oh yeah.
Oh, the open beta. No, the open beta.
Also, I've heard that the word that's above me can have different meanings, though it's pronounced the same all the time. That's what I've.
What? What are the meanings you're implying, Pawn?
We should, as my third monitor keeps flickering on and off because I'm not good with the soldering iron. We should say hello to I see Smarticles and Nero the Hobbit and 734 and Noah Craw and Jebby and Prosecutor Walton and Mosaic Task Force and Snowman Olaf, and I also see him back there. Yeah, back there. Hello, everybody. We are making fun of Massachusetts now, making fun of how the original American population speak and smell. Oh, spell. I thought. I mean,
Hang
either
on, I
of
don't remember
those.
making fun of Massachusetts.
I like Midwestern accents, you know. Have you ever seen Fargo?
I have not, but my girlfriend Julie has been telling me to watch it. So.
You haven't seen Fargo? The movie though, I don't know about, you know, they got a series now.
Oh no, it's the series that she's recommending.
Okay,
Not sure.
yeah, the movie. God, I can't even think of how they speak now. It's Wisconsin is what it is, and I just fly into a British accent for some reason. Hey,
Wisconsin.
We got Canada, right? I believe the way you get to Wisconsin is you start in Canada, eh? And then you sort of pull it back down to something sort of Midwestern until you're, hey, how's it going there? Yeah, you like them eggs there? Oh, I'll make you some eggs there then. Yeah. And it's just
You
kind of
sound
this...
a little bit like you're doing a cross between Austrian and Irish.
Well, that's clearly...
Oh, you like some eggs? No, it's just Russian. You want some eggs?
I'm doing it very badly, I can tell you that.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a requirement for any impersonations online. Impressions.
Hey, if you guys want to run a segment now or never, I gotta pee.
Oh,
How rude, Houston. We were having a lovely, polite conversation. Fine.
okay. So our first segment, since this is somewhat of a clip and skit show, is of course the Adventures of Daryl, which started last week in the the pilot, the pilot,
The
pilot,
The pilot. I believe it's pilot. The pilot.
fucking French. The in the Pilo episode where my character Daryl had an encounter with a strange fellow after getting into a fight with his arch nemesis in the industry of shit farming.
Yes.
Manure spreading.
Adrian with 2 N's had better gourds than you. Or did he? Because you didn't seem to think so. But that's what the judges said. So
We rejoined the fight in the moments, well, the waking moments thereafter.
you wake up in a prison cell.
Hey, I know this place.
Are you familiar with the prison cells? Has Daryl been in prison a few times before? Are you a troublemaker around the town?
I like to have a drink or two, generally speaking. And some people don't like me to have the second, well, it's not really, it doesn't end at 2 usually, but...
I suppose it depends on the strength of what you're drinking. A pint or 2 is fine.
I may know the guards by name is all I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Well, the guards... Alright, let me invent some names for them. Bob, Jim, and Dave are standing right outside your cell. And as you kind of come to consciousness, you overhear their conversation, and all these sounds you've been hearing kind of rearrange into recognizable words. He went absolutely crazy. He was right on top of Adrian, and he started... I don't know what he was doing. He was scratching and clawing, and it was almost like he was burning him. Burning him, says Bob. Can't have been burning him. He didn't have any matches, did he? No, he was strange, though. There were burn marks all over Adrian. God, I feel so bad for his family. Funeral's next week, apparently.
But wait a second. So the 9th festival is going to be way easier for me to win now. Okay.
Assuming you make it out of this prison with murder charge dropped against you.
There is that.
Yeah. The guards kind of notice you waking up. Daryl. What have you got yourself into this time?
Well, I don't know exactly. I kicked a guy in the shin, and I put my poo on his dinner, and now I'm hearing you talk about burning and dead people. Are you sure that you weren't talking about another Daryl you might have in custody presently?
I'm pretty sure you're the only person who spells a Daryl with a Y in the town, and they actually have your documentation, so... There is another Daryl, but he spells his with an E.
Yeah, I knew that Y was gonna... Oh, God.
Yeah,
I was just trying to be fancy, There was a girl, and she liked Adrian, and they're married now. Well, I guess she's available again.
Yeah,
so
she's a widow now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lisa.
We need somebody to help out with the bills.
Well, the guards come over, and they're, they're not... I mean, they know you. You've been in and out a few times. They know you're not a murderer. You wouldn't do something like this. And so they're not going to make too much of a mess of you. But, prison culture, they got to give you a bit of a beating. So they open up the cell, and they come on in. And that energy that you were feeling yesterday, presumably, however long it's been now, you notice it again. And as the first one kind of puts a hand on your shoulder to go for a punch to your gut, you feel like part of your soul has just ripped itself out and has gone into him. Bob reels backwards, and the voice inside your head speaks again. What would you like him to do?
Oh. What I like him to do. All right. This is Bob, right?
Yeah, this is Bob. I forgot what I named the other guys. What was it? Jim?
It was
and
Bob,
Dave?
Jim, and Dave.
Bob, Jim, and Dave. Jim and Dave are like just watching Bob about to beat you in the chest, they assume.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, is Bob, he's always been sort of more the enforcer in the crew. Jim and Dave, they're kind of cool to me. They hand me a fag after
they're content to
kick the
just
shit out of
sit
me,
back and watch him assault you.
Bob gets a certain amount of pleasure out of the beatings, the regular beatings.
Vindictive
So what would I
guy.
want? What do I want? happen to Bob? I mean, I was thinking about casting magic missile, but if my soul's inside of him, okay. So
You have to give him
happens?
a short story. You have to tell his life as it should be, not how it is. Just a little quick thing. It could just be like, Bob decided he wasn't going to punch me in the stomach.
Ah, I see what you're saying. Okay. Bob got very confused about what direction I was in, swung at me, and punched the wall.
His knuckles
made.
Oh.
Oh, go ahead. You take go.
Oh, you've said it. The demon's like, fine. And the Bob swings at the wall, his knuckles cracking against the hard stone. And he kind of just stands there completely dazed. And doesn't do anything after that. He doesn't even seem to really acknowledge the breaking of his hand. And he just kind of stands there. Are you right there, Bob? Says Jim. Ow. Oh, Bob. Bob. And they kind of just tentatively poke him. Is this a joke? And his eyes are glossed over. He's standing there. And for a moment, everyone is still. Is there anything else you'd like to do?
I feel like Light writing in the notebook. Wasn't that his name?
Yeah, it was. Yagami Light. Yeah. Oh boy.
Anything else I'd like to do?
I mean, this might be your chance to escape from prison.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is, wouldn't it be helpful for me if, like, Bob reached out, both of his arms and kind of headlocked both of the guys and just dragged him down and held him?
Well, the demon doesn't respond when you think that. And it seems like Bob is just completely non-responsive at this point. But then Jim comes along. Let's say Jim. I'm going to be mixing up these guys' names and voices. You're going to have to bear with me. I didn't plan much of this. But Jim comes along, and he is like, okay, Daryl. I'm going to change his voice completely. Okay, Daryl. I don't know what you did to him, but we're going to have to get you to the gallows, because your appointment's due in a few minutes' time. And he puts a hand on your shoulder, and again you feel this energy. But it's a bit of a familiar energy now, and you remember this feeling of your soul going out and into Bob. And you realize that you have a degree of control over it. Mm-hmm. So the idea is that you can split these soul or souls, or whatever it is that's been writhing around inside you. You can split them into as large or small fractions as you like, and imbue them into whoever touches you. And then you can tell them a story, and depending on how much of the fraction that you have placed into them, they'll be able to act out the story. It's pretty much like their intelligence is dependent on how much soul you give them. So you give them 1/10 of what you've got, and they won't even be able to move or think. If you give them 9/10...
Now, as a shit farmer, I don't have a lot of that to waste, Harvey.
Well, it's alright because it's not yours.
Oh, that's okay.
The voice inside your head speaks again, and he's like, yes, put me inside him. That sounded wrong.
Ooh. Yes, it did.
But I like wrong.
Okay, I like wrong a little bit, too.
So Jim has his hand on your shoulder now, and he's leading you out, as the other one, Dave, stays behind to keep watching Bob and make sure that he doesn't suddenly fall over.
Huh.
Is there any story you'd like for Jim to follow?
Yeah, I'm thinking, like, the certain kinds of things that you tell people, like, they don't have to believe them that much. Like, they're ready to believe it, that kind of a thing. I'm thinking Jim, have you seen Dave and your wife hanging out a lot recently?
Are you saying this, or are you imbuing this into him? Are you just asking him?
I'm imbuing.
You're imbuing
I'm
it.
imbuing.
You're imbuing the question of, have you seen Dave hanging around your wife lately? Okay, so Jim kind of startles back for a second. Dave? Have you been around? Oh, hang on. How much are you imbuing into him? How much of a fraction are you going to put inside this guy?
So
how much
so
are you
if I'm
into this?
If I'm following here, Bob got a 10th, right? Does it come back to me, or is Bob just took a 10th there?
Well, he's still
don't know
got
how the
his
math works.
10th for now.
Yeah.
You're not entirely sure how that works. But it
Gotta
feels
get
like
some
you
money
have
together
9
and-
tenths remaining.
Buy my 10th back from him. Okay. So, yeah, I got like 9 tenths remaining. I feel like this is a little, like, it's just the kind of suggestion that'll, and I just need to get away. Just a little bit. Just another 10th. Just
Another
a
10th. I mean, 1/10 was enough to make him punch you and miss and then not
Punch
doing
the
anything.
wall, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
another 10th. And Jim is just kind of like, he's just looking at Dave questioningly. Dave, have you and Miranda been... He just kind of sounds confused, that he's almost doubting what he's saying, but... I've seen you two around, haven't I? And Dave is completely distracted by this utterly bizarre happenstance of his two best friends acting very strangely today, on the day following a man in the town being burned by a punch. And he's like, what? No, Jim, mate, I don't even know who Miranda is. Have I ever met your wife? Why have you never introduced us? I thought we were friends. And they both seem very distracted at this point in time.
Ooh. Oh. See, because what I want to do... No, I'm not running. I'm not running yet. What I want to do is I want to say to Jim... this is not... I'm not gonna imbue it. I'm actually going to say to Jim... I'm going to say... That's a load of shit. He knows her. They were at the fair next to each other.
Yeah. You two... You were drinking from the same mug last night. He might have been ad-libbing by himself in that respect. But he gets very angry very quickly, this Jim. And he's not happy about Dave sharing mug, which is a traditional sign of intimacy in the town of Aladale. Sharing mug together. And he's completely forgotten about you at this point, and he just kind of charges at Dave. Grabs him by the shoulders. Is it true? Is it true, Dave? Are you and Miranda? Kind of a tear rolls down his face. Are you and Miranda sharing mug?
And meanwhile, I'm just sort of sidling around the nearest corner. Just don't want to move too fast. You get around a corner and then you're gone.
Well, you've got a completely open kind of path to the exit at this point, and the bars to your cell are wide open from when they came in. So everyone is pretty occupied, and Bob, it's maybe been a few more minutes since you imbued Bob, but he's still just standing there, eyes completely glazed over. Completely forgotten now by Jim and Dave as they proceed to kind of have something of a struggle against each other, intellectually wise, as they try and comprehend these two different realities which have converged.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, huh? Like, maybe I need to recover my 10th from Bob, but then Bob will be active again. I think I just got to get the hell out of here, you know?
Yeah, that might be the way. So, you want to run for the door?
I'm going to scarper.
Okay, you scarper for the door, and Dave kind of yips out, and he's like, what? He's gone! And he starts making towards you, but Jim is holding him back, and he is not happy about those two sharing mug. So you pretty much walk out completely uncontested.
I love this term. Sharing mug. I'm gonna say that to the next woman who I'm dating. Would you like to share a mug tonight?
Share a mug with me? And she'll be like, "Oh, Ronan." Anyway, the prison is absolutely bog standard rubbish. It's 3 cells and a hallway connecting them, and then a short desk and some tables that, before they came into your cell, the guards were playing cards there. There's a couple of coins on the counter that they were maybe betting with, but otherwise it's completely barren, and the front door is right there.
Okay. Well, I might as well grab the coins as I go. And boy, if there was some way that I could, sort of pin them into the jail there. I mean,
Well, you could.
I'm
swing.
running. There's a front door, right? So
Yeah,
the front
maybe you
door
don't
is
have an
open
awful
and
lot of
then-
time to consider this. You probably ought to just gun for the door.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, I'm running for the door.
stride up to it, swing it open, and burst out. And outside is a whole crowd of people lining up on either side of the doorway. And ahead of you stands the town gallows. And everyone kind of slowly turns towards you. And no one says a thing.
Oh, shit. Okay. Did I do that right? Did the whole thing play? Just so you guys know, we're sitting here and we're watching it play back, and Harvey's listening to it over the live stream. I'm sitting here watching it play, and I can't hear it, because if I could hear it, then you could hear it, and then there'd be a doubling thing going on. So he's like sitting there describing to me, and then you said, and then I did this thing, and then sharing mug. You remember that? So by the time it gets to the end, I'm just like, I don't know where we are. Do I come back? That's okay. The meters aren't bouncing anymore. I'm gonna come back.
He's like, we're like 5 minutes into the episode, and Pawn is there going, it must be ending now, surely, right? It's gonna end in a few seconds. So no, it's alright. You got a bit longer.
Chill out. Chill out.
Yeah. It is so fun watching these back properly and being able to actually talk to you at the same time, because like we both enjoyed this so thoroughly when we recorded it, and so many kind of in-jokes build up across the series that I haven't thought about for ages. That now get to relive them.
Well, and I'm also enjoying watching chat respond to it and stuff. We were just saying it's really cool, and like, you know, you guys are all commenting and saying funny stuff, and then there's like a moment where there's nothing for like a minute, and we're both going, they're really watching now.
Yeah. Oh, you can tell they're engaged when the chat gets silent, yeah.
The third monitor
fun
popped
times.
back to life.
Hey!
Yeah, I got Harv over here on a third monitor, so when I look at it, I actually see him over there, and I went to turn it on before the show, and it just wouldn't go, so I'm sitting there with, like, little things trying to, you know, jump pins and whatnot to get the power to come on, and then, like, about 15 minutes after I gave up on it and just set it up blind, it just came on its own, so now it's going off and coming on, going off, coming on. Me and
such
technology in
troubles.
general, including quick pops.
You should just do it the old-fashioned way, like me, where I just imagine you're in the room with me. I'm staring at my bedpost right now. Hello, Pawn.
I'm working on it. When you go away, I'm experiencing your world. Wait, is none of this real? Says
What?
734.
That's my favorite thing to do is.
I'm just gonna start calling you World Wide Web 734. Is that cool?
Oh, also, I noticed earlier that our raffle winner from the previous show is in the chat, I think.
Oh yeah, did you get the
Shadowhawk or
code?
something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that's it. Shadowhawk. Did you get the code if you're here? I sent it.
He came in chat earlier and said thanks for the game, so
Excellent.
I guess... oh, Stormhawk, not Shadowhawk.
Stormhawk.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I interchanged one generic username for another.
Rude. So today's topic, if we're going to get onto it, is piracy. The concept of piracy and being a pirate and arg and taking things that you want because you want them and bollocks to everyone who doesn't and that sort of a thing. Which I've
Indeed
done
we
a
are.
lot of in my day. I'm just going to come out with that. Basically grew up as a pirate. Didn't really know that I was a pirate. It was the early days of the interwebs. If you didn't get the opportunity to be alive in like the early 90s and be online, or mid 90s, the internet used to be a place where you would go online and share things freely with each other just for the pure joy of it. It was kind of what we'd been...
Your audio is...
how's that?
Yeah.
And now? Oh, God. Come on, baby. Come back to me. Come on. Am I actually? Can you hear me appropriately? And it's just Harvey, or is it me? Is it? You guys are gonna have to tell me. Harv's frozen in time. I think possibly my connection with Harv has broken down, but I'm still live. We can hear you just fine. Okay, I was restarting the audio engine. I thought our audio had broken down. Harvey? Ooh, this is a good opportunity to do things to him. Give me a minute. Oh, he went away. Oh, he went away. Oh, Harv. Welcome back. Nothing happened.
Hello.
Nothing happened at all. I was not going to touch you inappropriately during the... Well, you were frozen. I was...
I didn't have much of a way to give you a warning that I was probably going to end up showing your Discord screen
Yeah.
to everyone. So sorry about that.
Feel free and
Whoops.
take our channel seeds and passwords that we share constantly over Discord.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah. We always put our most sensitive information right where we know the stream has like a 50-50% chance of seeing, and we like to live life on the edge, you know?
Yeah, live dangerously with our credentials. But if you do, okay, so to return, if you didn't have the opportunity to exist in the mid-90s, when the internet was just sort of becoming a thing, America Online, I had several accounts back then that I opened with a credit card number generator, because back then they didn't know any better. And I was too young to really like think about it and care if it was injuring anyone. It was just like, I need an AOL account. Hey, click a button, boom, I've got 16 digits, and it's apparently correct enough for AOL to give me accounts and stuff. So that kind of thing was going on. But also, it was just a wide open place. The internet today, Harv, is just awful. It's you can't go anywhere without them advertising and pestering and just trying to come at you from every angle. Like, everything is for sale. Everything is, they turned the internet into a shopping mall as well. They paved over paradise and put in a parking lot. And, the internet wasn't exactly paradise in that era, but it was because there was a lot of naughtiness going around. But I would argue there's the same amount of naughtiness going around. You just have to look a little bit harder for it nowadays.
You just have to know where to look to some degree. Yeah.
Yeah. You go on to but the original internet was a mixture of what people would think of as the dark web now, and just people sharing things and homepages, and everybody had a homepage on GeoCities. And why? Just cause you could. Cause here's the things that I like. Here's some art I made. Here's some music I made. Come and download it. And now it's all been, just shoved into a corner where somebody's trying to profit off of it. And, I get all the ad traffic through me, and I can, use my Google AdSense account to rake, It's awful what it's become. And if you never got a chance to see it before, I'm sorry for you. But in those days, I used to take whatever the fuck I wanted from whomever the fuck I wanted. It was a good time.
Oh, you're badass Ronan Pawn.
Damn
Pirate
straight.
of the high seas. Yeah. I have an interesting statistic for you. I mean, everyone complains about how bad piracy is nowadays, but I think you'll find that in the first quarter of 2019, IMB reported 38 incidents of piracy. And that was 28 fewer incidents than in the first quarter of 2018.
Well then. Who? IMDb?
Maritime. Maritime piracy.
Oh, okay. Okay. I was going to say, that's surprising.
Worldwide! 38 total!
Oh, God. There's a quote from South Park that I added to, like, our quotes list on my channel, where it's just, like, it was, the little toddler kid saying, he wrote a letter to his parents, "Dear Mommy and Daddy, I can no longer take the bullshit of modern corporate consumer existence. I have decided to move to South America and become a pirate," or something like that. It's fucking hilarious.
Isn't it, is it Libya or something?
Oh, yeah, it was probably Africa, actually, where he was saying he was going.
I can't remember, but I think there's some country that may or may not be Libya, so if you're from Libya, I apologize if I'm offending you right now. But basically, in every other country in the world, it costs quite a lot to get a naval license for your ship, to license it. Whereas in Libya, it's like basically free. And so like something like a third of all of the naval vessels in the world are flying the Libyan flag.
Oh, really?
Because yeah, because it basically they get away with like adhering to their very, very loose, tenuous laws regarding naval vessels.
So if
So,
you want to
oh,
mount like a
Somalia.
50
It's not
millimeter
Libya, it's
cannon,
Somalia.
it's
I think it's
Somalia. Okay.
Somalia that, yeah,
Yeah.
the chat
So
has
if you
corrected
want
me.
to be able to fire 7.62 millimeter rounds from your boat, then hang a Somalian flag.
Basically, yeah. But that's naval piracy. We are, of course, here to talk about software piracy. And I wonder, before we kind of launch into this, do you just kind of want to focus on software piracy, or do you want to talk about kind of intellectual property piracy as a wider kind of
I
thing?
was, we should probably start in with just piracy, but I think there's no way of avoiding a conversation about all of it. You know, it's
Yeah,
all going to
okay.
seep in.
I think
Because
it's all
honestly,
relevant and it's all,
first thing on my list is to talk about Adobe. Um,
yeah, yeah.
because well, I mean, I'm just gonna say it. I have Adobe Premiere Pro, which is the video editing software with which we cut together skits and things. Harv uses Sony Vegas. I use Adobe Premiere Pro. I use Adobe Premiere Pro 2015. Now, if you are an Adobe customer, a member of the Creative Cloud, as they call it, where you rent this software by the month from them and have no opportunity to just purchase it because they've taken that away, then you will know that Adobe Premiere Pro 2015 is not a thing you can buy anymore. You can't rent it from them. You can't download it from Creative Cloud. It's it's not a thing that you can get. It is.
And but Pawn, how then do you have it?
Um, I stole the shit. I'm just gonna say it. I have it, and I stole it, and I took it. And here's the thing, like about Adobe, and this is way too specific, but I'm gonna get into it a little bit about Adobe. Um, Adobe's software as a service model, which is what a lot of people use these days, where they're not selling you the software anymore; they're selling you licenses to the software, licenses to use it on a monthly or yearly or whatever kind of a basis. Um, they are currently embroiled in a lawsuit with Dolby because what they did, well, if we are to believe Dolby anyway, from their court documents that I'm pulling up right now. Let's see. Adobe is a large. This is coming from the documents that Dolby filed in federal court against Adobe, and I just want to read this to you because I find it very interesting. Adobe is a large and sophisticated software company that knows from its own experience that the ability to effectively conduct audits with full cooperation and compliance from the licensee is essential to the business of any technology licensor. As one of the largest software licensors in the world, Adobe actively enforced its own license agreements through a robust audit program to ensure that it was properly compensated by its customers for Adobe's software products. Yet, when licensing Dolby's technology, Adobe refused to comply with its legal obligations. When Dolby sought to exercise its right to audit Adobe's books and records to ensure proper reporting and payment, Adobe refused to engage in even basic auditing and information sharing practices, practices that Adobe itself had demanded of its own licensees. Adobe apparently determined, and it goes on. So what we can say is that Adobe, who is currently in the business of selling nothing but licenses, they don't sell software anymore. They sell licenses to use software, had a license agreement with Dolby. And Dolby was supposed to get, a percentage of each sale that included their codecs and their property because Dolby is, has been in the business for 40, 50 years developing audio, just audio in general. You have 5.1 surround, Dolby is to thank for that. So Adobe had an agreement on the books for how many they were going to sell, and then what happened is they switched over to this software as a service thing, and they decided, well, we can't really quantify anymore how many things we sell because it's a membership, it's a monthly thing. So some people maybe aren't buying it for that, even though they have access to that. We'll just lump it all together, and I'm sure Dolby won't mind it. And then when Dolby looked at the numbers and said, this isn't right based on like what you said at the latest stockholders meeting, we can attend those, when they started getting, interested and said, we want to audit you the way that we have written in the contract, we have a right to audit you once every year. Adobe said, yeah, okay. Here's a piece of paper with nothing important on it that we're going to consider the audit. And Dolby went, no. So I bring this up.
That's not how audits work.
I will return the floor from this monologue for, in a moment here. But basically, the situation as I see it is that if Dolby is correct in their filings, which take it as a grain of salt, it is a filing, it is one side of the story, but it is also a filing that costs, it's going to cost them hundreds of millions of dollars to sue each other, to sue Adobe, so take that into account as well. It looks like basically Adobe was pirating Dolby's licenses and selling them to you and me since 2012 or so, maybe 2014 at the latest. So that's just interesting from a company that has complained very publicly about the amount of piracy that it suffers itself, trying to keep, like, Photoshop was one of the most pirated things ever for the longest time, may still be. And Adobe's big complaint is about that. And then when it comes to their own internal practices, we pirate the we pirate the work of other people who we've already got agreements with, but we're not paying them.
Check the dictionary for the definition of hypocrisy. Yeah, so there's...
See Adobe.
I mean, that's just
Adobe.
like to me, your past kind of 2 hours of a monologue there. Goodness, man. Yeah, that's just like a big, interesting, like, to kind of keep in mind when... Take anything companies say with a grain of salt when they try and teach you about morality, because the function of a company is to make money. So, like, yeah, if this discussion is to be the kind of defining debate, should you pirate or not, in what situations, is it morally wrong to pirate, then just keep in mind that a lot of the companies who are telling you not to pirate are engaged in not great practices regarding piracy.
They have a bit of a vested financial interest in convincing you that it's the worst thing that ever happened.
Okay, so I want to kind of set this up a little bit.
You're entitled to at least 7 minutes of a monologue.
I get to have my monologue now, Pawn. The ball's in my park. So let's get this kind of clear cut. Biases wise, would you say you are pro-piracy?
Yes.
Okay, pretty much definitively, because it sounds like that from the past 7 minutes. But
yeah, with caveats, but if you draw a line in the sand, I am more on the go ahead side of things.
Okay, so in a lot of these kind of issues of like grey morality, I've been very much on the fence for a long time. And knowing that we were going to be talking about it on this show today made me want to go do some research and kind of form some opinions. So I want to kind of go through the main things I came across when is piracy good or bad? Googled some stuff. But initially I went into this kind of fact-finding process very much, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. Let's find out. So that's kind of where we stand as of right now. An interesting fact, the Software Alliance, who go by the acronym BSA because they used to be called something, Software Alliance apparently, they have figured out that the global usage of pirated, unlicensed software is about 37% globally. So of all software in use, about 37% of it is pirated.
Wow, over a third.
But the interesting thing is, when you look at where is it being pirated, the developed Western world nations, pretty minimal, like 15 to 20%, I think, for USA. and UK wasn't even like in the top 10 countries. When you look at underdeveloped countries, whatever, the lesser developed countries,
Universes.
it's like, and the reason I said Libya earlier for the naval piracy thing was because Libya was on my mind. Libya pirates over 90% of its software. So it's kind of an interesting fact just to take at face value. But it makes you wonder, like, why is that? And the main reason, as far as I can tell, is that unlike physical goods, which are imposed by like border control and trade relations, actually physically getting it into the country, software is online, equally available no matter where you are in the world, and as a result, it's uniformly priced. Some
All
games
right.
try and do variable regional pricing, but you can get around it with VPNs and whatnot. And so pretty much software has to be uniformly priced, which means in less prosperous areas, it's even more ridiculously expensive than it is for like us in Europe and America. So Libya pirates 90% of all its software because none of them can fucking afford remotely any of the software that exists.
Yeah.
So how else are they supposed to get their software? So that's like, I thought that was kind of one of the most interesting points that I came across.
Yeah, and that's actually a big
Yeah.
part of why I am on the pro pirate kind of side is that a big part of just accessibility, even in the Western world. You say 15% or something like that. It was around for the Western world or the developed world,
Something
that
like
kind of
that,
thing.
yeah.
Um, there's a lot of my personal experience was we didn't have money growing up. I wasn't going to convince my parents that, hey, I'm into, I found out about this thing called 3D Studio Max. It's 3D generation, and I really want to play with the model. And they were going to be like, okay, honey, we'll just spend like $700 on this professional 3D modeling software back in the days before, like when Mist was still a gleam in the eye of the games developers. Like, ooh, that kind of technology. We'll just spend like those programs back then actually had physical hardware as deterrents to software piracy, and you'd have to plug them in. Of course, a good pirate. All you need is some drivers. All you need is to simulate the information that's going in. But yeah, that wasn't going to happen. So like the information, like access to education for children in my era, for me, hinged hugely upon my ability to just go and take it. I couldn't afford it. I couldn't convince my parents to buy the things that I was momentarily interested in. God knows when they signed me up for karate, that was like I got the robes and the vests and everything like that, and got my first belt that was
Gi. The
non-colored.
gi.
Yeah, I got my gi, and that was just money in the fucking sink
Yeah.
for my mom, because I went to a couple of classes. I was like, this is all about like structure, and they want me to like be a team player and pay attention. I just wanted to kick people in the nuts. It wasn't what I thought it
Yeah.
was going to be.
So, so far, pretty much kind of like, oh, yeah, piracy. Ooh, okay, so let's balance the playing field a little bit and
No.
kind of consider the other side of things. This is the influence that I'm going to be throughout this entire Harv and Pawn show, by the way. He's going to be the super opinionated one, and I'm going to be like, let's look at this objectively. We're kind of
Fucking
balancing force.
burn
The
all the
angel and the
bridges.
shoulder.
I don't give a shit. And I was like, hang on,
Okay,
just could you turn the lighter out for a moment?
so there are all of the like, if you ask kind of the everyday person on the street, do you think piracy is good or bad? And if you find someone who says bad and you ask them why, they'll be like, well, it steals money and it's basically theft. Those are all kind of like the generic arguments, which we have to pay lip service to because we're talking about piracy, so we may as well state them. Is it theft? It's considered to be theft in American case law, and I think in UK case law as well. Like the way the law has treated it historically has been theft. But you're not. I see you shaking your head, I know. you're not. You're not depriving the original owners of anything, and there are loads of situations like with cloud-based Adobe products where it's a drop in the ocean, and you're not. Like if you were never gonna buy the software in the first place, you can't really say that you're depriving them of a sale because that sale was never going to exist. That's like I mean, do you have any comments on that? It's just kind of that's the first obvious argument, which is obviously kind of a bit silly.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
you've
not the
already
same as
hit it
theft.
on the head in terms of the idea of theft, and that was a big thing in the early days. Was the attempts to, uh, what do you call it, when Russia convinces its
Demonize,
people, and then now America does the
brainwash.
thing too. No, no, the office, the Ministry of Propaganda. The propaganda of the early
Brainwash.
war was the early war on piracy was, you know, it's the same as theft. You're stealing. It's the you wouldn't steal a CD, you know, you wouldn't
Oh, I
steal a
remember those
car.
adverts. Yeah, you can steal a car. Yeah, sure.
And they tried to like compare it to theft, which was a bad idea because, you know, there's a dictionary definition of theft. And yeah, if you don't deprive anyone of anything, it's not theft. It's a different kind of a matter. And it's just a technicality. There is still, you know, a problem with piracy in that people are working and producing something that they need to make a living off of. And if everybody can
Yeah.
just take it without having paid for it, then that's an issue. But it is not theft in the most pedantic way that I can possibly stamp on that. It's not theft. Damn it.
Yes, exactly. So, okay, so that's like the most generic kind of negative argument. But there are some decent points and arguments you can make for why piracy is not good and you shouldn't be doing it. So, let me just pick one of these kind of at random. Okay, this one I don't have any statistics to kind of back up, but it makes sense in a few ways. The more people that pirate software, the higher the prices that companies will have to raise their product in order to kind of overcome theoretical lost revenue. And by kind of jacking the price up, you're just disadvantaging the innocent bystander people who want to pay for the software legally, who don't want to break the law and don't want to be at risk of being convicted. So there's kind of like you that's kind of
Cost
comes under more
losses.
group moral responsibility for like society to not kind of create a shitty situation for other people, which is valid. I think it's relatively valid. It comes from definitely a moral standpoint of social obligation rather than well, I'm not hurting anyone kind of point of view.
Yeah, it's a relative validity for me, but it is, you know,
Yeah,
it's a valid thing that, I mean, just the same as with like shoplifting. If you're gonna, you know, steal something from a company, then realize that they, like, their prices have been built already to account for the fact that people are going to walk out the door with things that they didn't pay for. And in order to just sort of even out the margins, the prices do go higher.
yeah.
That said, I'm not necessarily against shoplifting. So,
Yeah, well, I
as a
remember a live stream recently of you talking about Walmart and how much you hate that evil company and
yeah,
recommending that all your viewers go shoplift Walmart.
yeah, because when it comes down to like that moral argument about you're depriving someone of something and the money that they should be making and that sort of a thing, like for me, it says, okay, well, let's take one more step back in the supply chain here and look at how it is that you came about the things that you're trying to sell to me at the price that you're trying to sell them. Since you're looking at me and saying, oh, but the pricing, you're hurting it by, you know, taking something off the marketplace that we didn't make any money for. Doesn't your supply chain involve children working, you know, in third world companies?
Yeah.
Doesn't it involve like modern slave labor where you've trapped, um, you know, people who have, what do you call that? They've immigrated into a country because they heard, oh, Nike's opening a new place. I bet I can get some money, you know, work for a big American corporation and send it back to, you know, where I come from. So they move into like Malaysia and from a neighboring country, and then Nike's representatives, and this is on the books. I'm not making stuff up here. Nike's third party, and Nike, you know, says we knew nothing about that. Hire these people, you know, say we need to make copies of your records. You know, we need your passport and your green card, your visa, and all that sort of a thing. Okay, thanks for those. We'll just through the shredder. We'll make copies of those and get them back to you in 2 weeks. And now you, as a person, you know, who has moved to a new country seeking work, can't go home because you don't have a visa, can't go get a job anywhere else because Nike's got your green card or Nike's third party representative of your green card. Basically, it is forced labor, and you'll just have to accept whatever it is that they give to you. So when it comes back to, that argument of the morality of the class consciousness and the group social kind of a thing, I move to
Kill all companies.
piracy as protest
Yeah.
for the
So,
activities of those very companies.
and that's pretty similar to your whole point with Adobe and Dolby, in that if you talk about, oh, it's disadvantaging the companies, then it's like, well, look at this company's practices.
Yeah, fuck
That
'em.
argument doesn't work too well if it's like the individual that's potentially a detriment. So another kind of decent point, which ties in quite well to that, is that maybe less the case with software, because you don't get much individually developed and published software that's widely used. But certainly in terms of like books and novels and maybe scientific papers, which is a whole different thing, which is, we can go into that stream if we like, because it's one of my main points if we
Oh,
consider wider intellectual property. But if you look at the individual level and you say, okay, this person is publishing this themselves, if you're providing the means to redistribute for free what they're trying to monetize, and everyone jumps on that means rather than actually paying, then it's like you can't hide behind Nike doing slave labor. That's that person being deprived of their revenue.
yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So
And
yeah,
the same thing with, where I say I'm not necessarily against shoplifting, is I'm not necessarily against shoplifting against giant multinational mega corporations that are destroying, small businesses and enslaving third world populations and things like that. If you're shoplifting from the mom and pop shop down the street, even though they're
yeah,
probably
you're
getting
just
their supplies from basically the same place as Walmart, because it's
yeah.
just come to that in our world, there's a different moral, there's a curve, and you're starting to drift off of the bell curve of that. You're getting
Did you
low.
ever did you ever read An Inspector Calls by, oh god, who was An Inspector Calls by? Chat can probably
I
tell me before I Google it. But you
definitely
haven't read it.
haven't. I don't recognize the title,
Okay,
no.
it's really famous British literature, so it's not too surprising.
Britlit.
Oh, J.B. Priestley. Um, it's basically a large essay on. It's set as a stage production play kind of thing, but it's a big kind of exploration of shared responsibility. So it's like, sure, in that situation, Pop and Mom down the street who buy their products from the same place, and maybe those products are made with child slave labor as well. How much responsibility did they have considering their own situation? I just wanted to pitch in briefly and wonder if you'd read it, because it's interesting. I don't. It's very obviously biased towards. Yeah, you are totally
Socialists?
responsible.
Oh,
I don't.
okay.
I don't know. No, but
I guess,
it's
yeah,
very
okay.
like, you are totally responsible if you do something which indirectly causes another person harm. Like in the example in the book, they talk about a factory owner who, there's an employee who starts a strike movement to try and get better wages, and so he fires her, and then she, through various other circumstances, ends up dying. And so it's like, well, you factory owner, you fucking fired her for that, so you're basically responsible for her death. So it's like, to what degree is responsibility diluted, and when is there no one to blame? That's the
Hmm.
whole point. It's an interesting read.
Yeah, it is an
Um,
yeah, it's very, because that is a huge part of this. If you're going to talk about morality, there is, at the end of the day, everything that everybody does sucks.
yeah,
Walmart gets its, Walmart didn't necessarily create the supply chain. In some instances it did, but it is there, and it's there because, like, I can justify that if I want to sit here and play, devil's advocate for the corporation. Basically, if Nike didn't enslave, third world immigrant workers in Malaysia and Vietnam and stuff like that, then Dunham's would have done it. Reebok would have got there first. Like, you
yeah,
have
like
to compete
the
in the
market
marketplace.
demands. Yeah,
Yeah, so you have to
yeah,
compete in the
exactly.
marketplace. So if, like, there's a cheaper way to do something and it involves doing something absolutely positively horrible and morally objectionable, you have to do it. Like, there
Or
is
someone else is
that,
going to anyway.
or someone else is going to, and then they'll dominate the market, and you're going to end up with the same result. Is the mental, logical construct and justification for doing it. And it's not wrong. If we could all get on the same page that, everyone's life is valuable and the people in Thailand are equal to the people in anywhere else, then, that would be great, but we're not. And in the world that we have right now, you can sit back and justify just about every horrible thing that you want by saying, well, it had to be that way. So if I didn't do it, someone else was going to do it. So when you walk into a Walmart as an individual,
Get that spray bottle
it's
ready.
convenient. It's, spread turmeric around on the on all the clothes there and cost them a bunch of money. But when you walk into a Walmart and choose to shop there, you're doing, something bad. You know that you're hurting people by the fact that you're supporting Walmart, and Walmart hurts people. But at the same time, like, Walmart's supply chain is everyone's supply chain now. So if you did go down to the mom and pop shop, you'll probably be doing the same thing. You'll just be paying more for it.
The thing is, in this situation, so when we're talking about like diluted responsibility, you can argue that, okay, sure, in both situations, maybe you're still hurting kind of the same people who manufacture those things. Or, not that you're hurting, I think that's the wrong way to put it. It's more that you're supporting practices, which I know kind of sounds like, oh, I'm just dodging that responsibility. I'm just supporting it. I'm not doing it. You're still supporting it. But in the mom and pop situation, you're also more directly, more immediately hurting them. And like, most people naturally, as humans, we tend to value the lives of people closer to us more valuably. So, and that's not necessarily morally wrong. So yeah, that's a reason not to do it to your individual and fuck them over, as opposed to supporting many people very far away being fucked over. But
I'd say it's
just humanity.
Morally wrong, but it is what we do anyway. It is acceptable by modern standards.
Modern society.
The person who's within my radius is of more value than the person who's not, is definitely it's the kind of thing that Jesus was trying to help people to get past, and it didn't take.
Yeah. So, okay.
Especially with Christians. Oh God! On that note,
you went there.
I went there. You know what? On that note,
I'm running low on coffee here. Can we roll a segment?
Okay.
I think that might be a good time, Houston.
We should probably split the live stream here. We've got another segment for you. What's up next? Should we go straight to Earth and God? We're talking about things that are interesting. Yeah, let's go straight to Earth.
We just touched on Christianity there, so that sounds like a good time, yeah.
Okay, so I'm giving you precisely no explanation for this. Just swallow it.
Watch it, and then come back and there'll be more points on the piracy discussion.
Dear Lord, it is I, thy humble servant, the earth, come to beg thy gracious majesty an audience with thou's divine grace.
Thou earth, it is good of thee to come hither before me. Thy righteousness and purity is plain to mine eye, and thy goodness doth gird thee round in holy opulence.
Lord?
Yes?
Would you mind turning that thing down a bit?
Oh, right. Yes, sorry.
You know, I get in here early and my eyes adjust and I just completely forget about the thing, to be honest. You alright then? Did you catch the Quidditch last night?
Yeah. What was that ref thinking?
Right. Oh, I wanted to just smite him with a lightning bolt for that call. Ha yes. And so I did. Well, anyway, you were there. You saw it, didn't you? Lucifer said you had something you wanted to talk to me about?
Yeah, actually, it's something she and I have been brainstorming together.
Oh, is that... Wait, she? I thought I made Lucifer an Enoch. You know, with the flappy wing bits and the whole, angel thing.
She transitioned.
What?
Honestly, I think she's just trying to get a rise out of you.
Oh, that is so like her.
It is. Anyway, she's got some good ideas, that Lucy, and she kind of put me onto this one. I want to pitch you a concept for, well, me, the Earth.
Well then, by all means, pitch away, my good planet.
Right. So, you know how you made me to fruit and produce plants and fish and trees and great beautiful gardens of perfect ecological harmony?
Sure, of course. That was, third day?
Fourth, actually.
Me, is it Wednesday already?
Thursday.
Gah, this whole forward progression of space-time thing, I don't know where I come up with this stuff. It's really throwing me off, if I'm honest.
Sure. So here's the idea. What if, okay, I fruit something different?
Like tomatoes?
No.
Raspberries?
Think bigger.
Stevia?
What if I were to start fruiting, like, little half-haired sort of monkey beasts?
Okay, right. What's a monkey?
I'll email you the design documents, but imagine a sort of soft, gangly beast with a bunch of little bits and bobs hanging off the ends, hair tufting out in weird places, that walks upright, capable of reason. Oh, it's sentient. That's a big part of this.
Right, hang on, slow down. Hold on. Earth, I'm fairly sure you can't even do that. You know, making the whole sentient beings, that's kind of my thing.
No, you do the trees, Lord. No one else can do the trees.
Right, yes, trees. God, trees are definitely my thing. God, I just love the... That was a good idea, wasn't it? Was that the second day that I did that?
Third.
Ah.
So, little half-monkey things, walk, talk, need food, light, water, die off in about 80 years regardless, consume pretty much everything in their path, whether they need it or not, really going to tear up my landscape. Oh, and they just hate each other.
Why do they hate each other?
Lots of reasons, really. Some of them are different colors. They don't seem to like that. Some of them have different dangly bits in the middle. That's a point of conflict also.
Well, why do they have to be different colours? I mean, if they hate it so much, then why not just make them all the same colour?
It's technical genetic diversity thing. Basically, none of them survive long enough to really do anything if I don't do it this way. And honestly, in testing, we found that if it wasn't colours or dangly bits, it would just be size of feet or hat preference.
Ah, yes. What's a hat?
So I fill myself up with these little angry monkey things, right? And they go about just tearing up the place, really wrecking shit.
Okay.
They'll start out agricultural, toiling away in my dirt hours each day, boiling under the heat of the sun, replanting things that grow naturally all across my surface into neat little rows for some reason, desperately hoping enough of it fruits that they won't starve each winter.
But Earth, everything I've already put on you it's self-sustaining. They could just pluck it from the trees and go on about their business.
Yeah, no, they're gonna fuck that up. See, they really like to rot with one another, and they're gonna start multiplying to the point that there's not enough food to go around, and really, even if there is enough food, they'll just grab as much of it for themselves as they possibly can and hoard it, letting it spoil and rot in storage before they let anyone else have any of it.
Why would they possibly do that?
Oh, they're greedy gods, so intensely greedy. They want everything for themselves, and maybe a few others around them they've taken a special fancy to, usually the ones they're rotting with, or the little offspring that activity begets, but to the complete exclusion of any basic concern for the rest of the entire race.
Right.
But that's just stage one. Soon enough, they'll realize that if they subjugate each other into slavery and socio-political economic caste systems, some of them can just eat the food while the others have to do all the work.
Hardly seems fair.
Not at all! Then the ones who don't have to work, having altogether too much free time, will start pretending to be you.
Me?
Yeah, they'll either decide that you told them to be greedy, racist, selfish dicks for the good of the universe, or they'll just dispense with it entirely and declare themselves God.
But they aren't me.
No, definitely not.
They couldn't possibly be me. They can't even make trees.
No one but you.
Me damn right. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, cheers. Then, this is where it gets good.
There's more?
Sadly, yes. So then they industrialize the whole thing. Kids working in coal mines, factories burning through my fields, pumping toxic fumes and chemicals into their own air and water. Some of the smarter monkeys, we're calling them humans, by the way. We'll try to stop the ones doing that from poisoning everyone, but no one will listen to them because the ones doing it have all the paper.
Paper?
Little shavings they take from the trees. Whoever has the most of these, apparently, gets to tell all the others what to do, even if it's jumping off a cliff, and they'll do it.
Why would they jump off of a cliff for pieces of this paper?
Why do they do anything, really? But then it gets really good. See, one of them will figure out how to make an explosive that can blow up the whole planet.
Me meing me? Are you gonna be okay, Earth?
Oh, yeah. No, just scorched a bit at the edges. But once they know how to kill themselves all at once, the whole thing turns into this standoff with everyone demanding things from each other and threatening to kill everything if they don't get what they want, knowing full well that they'll kill themselves if they actually do it. And then they make AI and shit really goes off the rails.
Earth, just stop right there. This all sounds positively horrible. These humans would lead torturous existences, devoid of meaning, every waking hour spent desperately trying to one-up the person next to them, just to attain fleeting bursts of self-satisfaction, sexual conquest, and this paper that you speak of, or slightly longer existences. They must know that they're doomed to eternal nothingness, regardless of the lives that they live. Why in my name would anyone intentionally create something like that?
Well, for the ratings, we throw cameras in front of the whole thing, broadcast it throughout the cosmos. From Alpha to Omega, we all kick back and watch them tear each other to pieces for all eternity. It'll be an absolute laugh riot.
Take my paper, Earth. It's brilliant. I want this thing greenlit immediately. And if you need anything at all, you can talk to Lucy on the front desk and she will sort whatever you need. Oh, hateful little monkeys killing each other for eternity. Ah, hilarious. You've got my creative juices flowing, though. I think I've just had an idea for a sort of polka-dotted horse thing with an incredibly long neck. Yes.
Right, thanks so much, Lord. Lucy and I are on it. I promise, you won't be sorry about this. Say, God, what's a horse?
Sorry?
Oh, and, you know the little half-monkey things? They kill you in the end.
What? I'll make it bright yellow. Haha, yeah.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Earth and God having a discussion there. Earth pitching the idea of humans to God. I think it's as reasonable a premise for why we are what we are as any, really.
Yeah.
If you're
I'm
gonna
fairly
invent a
sure
new
it
religion.
went pretty much like that. We could definitely make a religion out of this.
Well, in fact, I think maybe Fight Club already did. We are the all-singing, all-dancing shit of the universe.
Yes. I do like Fight Club. There's a lot of good quotes in that.
But ladies
Yes,
and gentlemen, we
welcome
know
back.
that you've been watching for quite a long time now, and we've had, the videos rolling to take breaks occasionally. So we're going to give you the opportunity to step away and drain your bladder containers, which is something that God decided to put into those humans, or rather the Earth. The Earth apparently it was necessary.
The Earth and Lucifer. Don't forget Lucifer. I imagine Lucy had quite a big impact on the designs.
That's true. That's true. So we're going to give you a chance to just step away for a moment. We're going to be back in about 5 minutes after this live stream break. In the meantime, please consider supporting us on Patreon or throwing us a donation on PayPal. I will throw those links into chat right now with the support command.
Sure,
Yes.
but it's basically just patreon.com/Harv and Pawn and paypal.me/Harv and Pawn. It couldn't be any easier to put into your browser. So if you like what you're seeing, you're enjoying this show so far, you want us to make more because we enjoy it and we hope you do too.
Yeah, I was just saying to Harv before we came back that this is the show that I had hoped it would be, I guess, without even knowing it like a year ago while we were still planning this thing. I was like,
The thing is, yeah, I mean, I kind of knew from the start that it was going to turn out well because I don't feel like we would have got any other reaction out of me when you just came along and were like, let's make a show. And I was like, what show exactly? I don't know. Yeah, let's do it. So just, yeah. And it's going, like you said, it's going just exactly how I would want it to go as well. So yeah, please consider supporting. And if not, then don't worry. Just go empty your bladder and we will be right back in, what is it, Pawn? 5 minutes for a break or so?
5.
Something
That's
like
right. Back in 5.
Please listen carefully.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Harv and Pawn show. I hope you had a good draining of your bladder, or emptying of your bowels, or fetching of snacks, as Jim always does in chat. He's always eager to tell us, too, what snacks he fetched, just to make us hungry, like I've eaten today or something. I hardly ever remember to do that. How are you, actually, Harv? Do you actually eat? You know, do you?
No, I pretty much exclusively just drink. Yeah.
Oh, so something we've got in common. Holding my Strohs out here. By the way, Strohs, if you'd like to give Harv and Pawn a brand deal, I am totally down for that, and we will accept it for no remuneration outside of providing me with a just unlimited supply of your fine, delicious product.
I can confirm that if you're watching, he does just drink that. That's the only beer you drink, isn't it?
I actually started with PBR, Pabst Blue Ribbon, is what it's called over here. And then I have this theory. It's a very lizard people and UFOs kind of a theory, but I have this theory because Pabst Blue Ribbon is a company that making beer. They had their own breweries for a long time, and then due to something quite similar to what we've been talking about, the just industrialization of commerce in general, decided that they were going to just pay one of the big brewers like Anheuser-Busch or something like that to brew it for them, and they sold off all their breweries. And then recently, this year, I believe, the brewers came to them, the brewery came to them and said, yeah, so why should we keep brewing your stuff again? Because you don't have the means to actually brew it yourself anymore. We could just sort of...
Not do this.
Yeah, pull a... what is it? The Oakley sunglasses. Pull an Oakley sunglasses thing, which is where Oakley made these really fancy designer sunglasses that sold for over $100. They're just bits of plastic with friggin' lenses in their sunglasses. But they were a brand. They were a name. It was like having the best champagne. And the giant conglomerate corporation who runs glasses globally. And I can't remember what they're called right now because they try and keep their names out of the media. But they own like Lens Crafters and just all of the places you'd go to get glasses. If you go to a J.C. Penney to have they own that. What they did is they starved Oakley because they owned all of the places where you could sell the sunglasses. So they stopped buying them, which meant Oakley couldn't make any money, which drove Oakley's stock prices down, which meant they could buy up Oakley and then just, own the name and start selling them for $100 again. And become no more middleman of the people who actually came up with the thing. Not that I, give too much of a crap.
Conglomerate into a mass, an oozing mass of different companies that one form.
Luxottica, says
Yes.
Noah Crow. That's right. Luxottica is the ones who own that. The eyeglasses. Anybody who owns glasses, who needs glasses, you are subject to Luxottica, Lord of Glassery.
I think it's pretty much the same with mattresses as well. You can try and buy different brands of mattress, but they're all owned by the same one company, which manufactures all mattresses worldwide or something.
So most of your children are being produced on.
Every child conceived and
That would
laid
be a
to rest
really
in the
good
same.
slogan for like a mattress company. We make the children or something. We make the
We
kids who make the world
facilitate.
go round.
Yeah, something like that. Oh, God.
So during the break, I took the opportunity to look back through the television back. I'm still getting used to where to reach for it. The television back here, and check out some of your comments while we were talking about what were we talking about? Piracy, which we're going to be talking about more. But before we do, let's look back and see what you guys had to say. Eugenides Pie said, Harv and Pawn, some places are trying to get rid of piracy by being better than the competition, such as GOG. And others are
That's
just
one of my points to
free
talk about.
because they get donations like Blender instead of 3D Studio Max, which I mentioned earlier, who charge obscene amounts per month. I had no idea what 3ds Max was doing. It was like back in the day, I first got into 3D Studio Max because I could steal it, and that's where I learned my 3D modeling stuff, but I had no idea what they were doing now. But yeah, getting rid of piracy by being better than the competition or just going open source and saying, listen, if you like it, support us, which is something that I think you and I have kind of in common with that sort of business model. If you like what you see, support us. If you don't, then, just in the back of your mind, know that by not supporting us, you're killing us.
You are directly responsible, just like an inspector calls.
You're
Yeah.
slowly strangling us to death with your lack of monetary support at patreon.com/Harv and Pawn.
We should change our tagline. Patreon.com/Harv and Pawn. You're slowly killing us by not pledging. Yeah. Yeah, the whole free alternatives is a good point. Do you want to jump straight back into our piracy conversation, or should we
Well, I
go
do
back
want to
to the
move
chat a
through.
little bit
Yeah, I
more?
want to go through the comments and stuff.
We
Because
need to give some attention to those people. I remember seeing on the TV earlier. I can't remember who it was, but someone was saying like, "Oh, well, you guys aren't interacting with chat at all," and it's like, our aspirations for this thing is that it's a show, and so when we really get into like a discussion topic, we want to focus and talk it through and make our points and kind of present the best thing that to watch. But of course, it's all live. You're all
yeah,
here. We don't want to ignore you. So yeah, we need to just remember, like
yeah, we're
right
trying to
now,
find that balance
find the
between
time.
yeah.
Yeah.
So in that interest, World Wide Web 734 was responding to Eugenides Pie, who was saying that some of them are competing just by being better than piracy. And 734 was saying, yeah, that was basically the Netflix approach. It manages to beat out pirating shows and films just by being super convenient, which it is. I mean, I've paid. Well, I don't care about YouTube Red, like their content.
Who
But
does?
I have yeah, I have paid Netflix in the past. I'm now off of Netflix and onto Amazon Video because they just seem to have more that I'd be interested in at this point. But the massive convenience of just being able to like go and click and start watching as opposed to heading out to Pirates Bay and torrenting something. I recognize that as a legitimate thing because it's
I
very
think
real.
that's obviously like everyone's favorite way that companies could and should maybe deal with piracy. Like Steam do it with games, like you said, Netflix and streaming services do it just with convenience for their streaming content. Yeah, I'll go into it more in a bit, but I agree, and I think honestly, when I was younger, I used to pirate games a lot because obviously I had no money to pay for games, and Steam was probably the driving force in stopping doing that, just because they had the good sales, and it was all the same ecosystem and all friends and playing with friends. It was like they just offered better service than pirating. So
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Let's see. In okay, so now we get to the point where I have trouble pronouncing your names. Kirandon? Kirandon. A majority of the Adobe products, so I was talking about Adobe earlier, a majority of the Adobe products have had the same procedures stored locally for about the past decade. That's why most Adobe products were available to source on the day of release. Adobe clearly knew the vulnerability of their licensing procedure, but they left it for people to exploit. Was it intentional? Only Adobe knows, but they definitely knew. Now some products do have a different licensing method, which makes it slightly more difficult for people to modify for pirates to obtain.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then 734 said, yeah, Adobe in particular seems to take the approach of, we know most people could never afford this, but they can pirate it and we make enough money off the people who can pay.
It's yeah, it's like the point I was making earlier about we don't really know the stats behind it, I think, but companies are probably raising their prices because they know piracy is happening, and in turn that just means that normal people who don't want to pirate are having to pay more. So it's like
Well,
it's the business model now. But
yeah. And you know, I would, like 2 years ago, if we had this conversation, I might have had entirely different, like, thoughts and opinions because I was paying Adobe for Adobe Premiere and for their Creative Cloud service and stuff, and I paid it for 2 years. 2 years, $29.99 a month for access to like 2 or 3 pieces of software. So get out your calculators and see how much Adobe took me for. And really the big thing that pushed me onto just taking Premiere 2015 was that, in my opinion, as a customer of Adobe, paying customer, every subsequent version of Adobe Premiere since 2015 has been worse. Has been absolutely worse. It keeps getting more unstable. It from release to release, it's just completely untrustworthy. Lack of backwards compatibility, which it turns out there is backwards compatibility, but they're obfuscating it. Like, everything that they've done with Premiere since when I came on board and was paying them in 2015 has been horrible for me as the person who's been paying them. And the whole like concept behind software as a service is that the reason you're paying for it monthly is we're going to keep this thing updated, we're going to keep making it better, we're going to implement new features. And
it was
technically,
basically just a crappy service at that
yeah,
point.
technically they were, adding features that I really wasn't using, but, they were also changing the user interface in ways that broke my workflow. And like my whole experience over the course of 2 years was like, I'm paying for you to screw me over. I should just have 2015. And by the time I realized that, they were no longer offering Adobe Premiere 2015 because they were being sued by Dolby. And 2015 has Dolby's codecs in it. So
Yeah.
in order to cover their asses.
Speaking of video editing software, kind of harking back more to the previous comment actually about good service being the way to combat piracy. I use Sony Vegas Pro 15, which I obtained legally. I was pirating Sony Vegas Pro 12, I think, for a while, and maybe 13 at one point. But I got Vegas Pro 15 for £20, so what, $25 maybe, on the Humble Bundle.
Oh.
And the Humble Bundle is like fantastic way
Yeah.
to get something. And that was an amazing price. And I think it's a lifetime subscription. Just a lifetime license for that amount of money. So like how they pulled that off, God only knows. But just another indicator that it was like a good platform with good service that made me want to start paying for it.
Yeah. See, if you do it right, people will actually pay you for it. And then you won't have to, like, create giant DRM walls that keep us all out and stuff. People will be like, you know what? This is good work. Thank you. Here's my money. Take it, please. As opposed to, God damn, this fucking Premiere 2017, and now you changed the user interface. Now fucked up my workflow. As some people maybe, some people might have felt that way. What have we got here? Infinite Vamp said also pirating may in fact lower prices, as when a service decides to increase their price, increased pirating may scare them back to lower prices.
I don't see it working that way. I think if you're running a company and you're looking at finances and you see theoretical loss and theoretical profit, then the natural instinct is raise the price to make more profit. So
It
I
would
don't
be
know.
very situational.
Don't
I
know.
could believe that, an individual company, decided to raise its price on something and then you got that
Yeah.
like protest, that piracy as protest kind of backlash, and then they
Yeah.
went, oh crap. But probably if you've done that, you're probably going out of business already. Like, because you already pissed people off to the point where they just stole it from you, and they're probably not going to come back and be like, yeah, let's pay them now. That's a good, they did the right thing in the end.
I regret with all of my preparation before the stream that I didn't actually find a definitive paper about whether or not raising prices encourages piracy or makes up for it. But I'm sure it exists. It's just all this data is very hard to get for researchers because who the fuck knows how many people are pirating this stuff? It's mostly not tracked, which is how
Well,
it can happen.
Rockstar
So.
is who knows, because I'll get into that later. What do we else?
Let's go
Lyric
through more
Tech
comments.
said there's a difference between simply boycotting a company and stealing from them. Was Lyric Tech, and that's a very straightforward, simple point. But I don't know. I don't know. I get what you're saying, and at the same time, I might just completely disagree if I thought about it. Because
Well,
boycotting
if you're
and
saying-
stealing from them in the form of piracy, that's what the boycott, is. That's what the boycott
Yeah, and also
can be.
we've already kind of established that we don't view piracy as stealing because you're not technically actually subtracting any value from them. So it's like it's more akin to a strike, maybe, and that is definitely a form of protest. But it's like you're not subtracting value so much as you're just kind of refusing to give value. So yeah, sounds quite like a boycott protest kind of move to me.
It can
don't
be
know.
used. I mean, that's the thing about piracy is that, the danger here is just to decide, I'm just going to take whatever the hell I want from whoever the hell I want.
Yeah, it's like there's a point when it stops being a moral standpoint and becomes an excuse to just take whatever you want and not pay.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So there's definitely that line, Lyric Tech, and we're with you on it. Eugenides Pie said, I've been pirating some small games that don't have a demo, but I am buying the games that I like, which is something that a lot of people do these days, when you don't have access to the actual title itself that you're interested in, a lot of people are just, trying before they buy, even though that option is not available. They just download what they want,
Yeah.
they give it a go, and then if they're a couple hours in and go, I'm still involved, this is interesting, I want to play the rest of this, thank you, and then I'll buy the, full version and own it appropriately.
Depending on the platform, there are alternative ways to do that without pirating. But you can argue that the way that it ends up is the same anyway. But Steam, for instance, have a pretty reliable 2-hour refund policy. So like you can have a 2-hour trial. You have to pay for it up front, and then you get a refund, I think in Steam credit or something. So it's not quite as flexible and it's a bit more risky, you could say. But you can do that if that's the kind of you're wanting to demo things that aren't technically demo available.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
I have done it before,
Steam's
so
like attempt at sort of mitigating that and being like, no, you can try before you buy. That said, my experience with the 2-hour thing, it's not. It's just that it's very cut off. The moment that it's over 2 hours, Steam is
Yeah.
like, go fuck yourself. When it's
Yeah.
before 2 hours, they're like, yeah, go ahead, have it back. But if it's like 15 minutes over 2 hours, they're like, just don't even respond to you, has been my experience. So it's
and it's
really on you
it's
to
also just
keep the
has
timer
that
running.
whole it has that whole anxiety of the same way that like a Netflix free month has an anxiety where you give them your card details and if you're slightly late you get charged that full amount and yeah.
Mhm.
I'll try not to cut my
Uh,
breast anymore. I'm so sorry about that.
No, that's just kind of twist a little bit. Wait. Just two more comments, both from Noah Craw. The first one is, only reason I pirate is because I either can't afford something or because it's not available where I am. Which is, brings CBS to mind immediately for me and Star Trek. And
Yeah.
Netflix, I suppose. And just like the idea of it's available over here, but it's not available over there. And drives a lot of people to like, buy VPNs and stuff. And now you're just one download of a good torrent client away from piracy.
Yeah, it's nuts. Regional blocking is definitely something that just we as a species need to figure out because, like we were saying, in America, 15% of people pirate their software, in Libya, 90% are pirating.
90%.
Because, like, regionally, you've got different economies that exist on the same marketplace. It doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, it's like, it's basically comes back. That's the ultimate kind of Uno twist card to play when you try and use the argument.
I like that.
When you're trying to say, like, you're depriving them of a sale. Well, no, because there's no way I could buy it in my region. That's not possible. So, like, there's definitely not stealing because it would be impossible for me to give them the money for it. So, yeah.
Actually, yeah, because I was off of piracy for a very long time and only recently got back into it, and now I'm just taking over the fucking... No. Within reason, but a big part of, like, it didn't get me back in, but in the midst of my, like, I'm going to pay everybody for everything, I appreciate these creators, and they need to have the money, and and, I was just, like, throwing out all of the considerations of the great evil that is being served by all the people who have become middlemen in the process, and they're sucking dry the art from the art that's being shared. But in the middle of that, like, the thing that, like, broke me, and I was willing to pirate, and my mom still tells the story. And it's there's no story to it, but the story is I went over to her house and I wanted, let's watch a movie together. I want to watch this one. I've heard good things about it or something like that. And I went looking for it and I couldn't find it. I couldn't find it to buy it, to actually pay them. And then maybe I found it somewhere and tried to pay them and it didn't go through or something. Like, things just weren't working, and I spent 15 minutes trying to buy this thing, and she still tells the story because it resolves with, and then I went, oh, fuck it, and I downloaded a torrent client onto her computer and had it 3 minutes later, and we started watching it. And it's like, there you go. That's why Netflix works, and why, people pirate things. If you don't make it convenient, and actually a big part of that we could talk about and probably won't get to is the idea of, like, movies, where the SD version is always $2.99 and the HD version is always $3.99. And it doesn't matter if this is a movie from like 30, 40 years ago that you used to like go into Blockbuster and pick up the VHS tape of for $1 and you'd have it for like, they'd say like, bring it back whenever the fuck you want to. We don't care. Nobody's watching that shit. Now you have it for the same days as though it was a, brand new release. And I'm watching Captain Ron over here, which is a great movie, by the way. I really recommend it. And you can get it on the torrents because I got it there. It's really great. Captain Ron with Martin Short, and it's just fucking great. You gotta, who's the guy with the, and he's Kurt Russell. Oh my God. And they're on a ship. It's good. But how does that, like, if capitalism is intended, this comes back to the argument for capitalism that it actually functions, which it doesn't. If the argument is that, supply and demand rule the market, well, what's the demand for Captain Ron that I still have to pay $3.99 if I want to watch it in HD? Like, shouldn't that price go down a bit, considering that no one in chat knows what Captain Ron is? And yes, I am tempting you to say, I know Captain Ron, and it's great.
Please, someone tell him they know Captain Ron.
And lastly, so that we can get back to just chatting exclusively between ourselves is Noah Craw again. Yeah, until you say that you like Captain Ron, and then we're cool. Noah Craw said, I'm considering Patreon, but what's my rewards thinking? And he was asking about, like, when are you guys going to set up proper rewards for Patreon? Right now, what we've come up with for, the patreon.com/Harv and Pawn is just the idea of giving you guys access to the VODs earlier, the individual clips earlier than they're going to release publicly on YouTube, and something that I haven't talked to you about yet, Harv, but that I think you'll be okay with. I hope so, because I'm going to say is like the production notes and things like that.
Oh,
We can release those as little
yeah.
documents that you can go and
Well,
see like how we put
yeah.
the show together.
What I thought you were gonna say was some of your behind the scenes video stuff that you've put together, which is either is or is going to be available through Patreon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So pretty much there's like the way we're treating it so far in our mentality is that there's one reward tier, and that's what you get by pledging to the Patreon. So no matter how much you want to pledge or not, because just having different tiers just segregates people a bit too much, I think, for
Yeah, it makes me feel
what we're
guilty
gunning for right
in the
now.
long run.
Yeah.
You get this and you don't get it, but you get that.
Yeah, exactly. So like you can pay 50 a month for some behind the scenes shit.
And please do.
But you could also just choose perfect
Bump
timing.
it.
Yeah, high five. But you could also like pay 5 and get that as well. And I think that's a nicer model to work with for now. Probably for the future as well. So
Yeah. We'll see though. We're just getting started here, and it's been sort of a bit of a race to try and keep up with having everything ready for the next show on Harv and Pawn.
yeah. We're easing into the process a little bit. But I like your idea about the behind the scenes notes and stuff. Because it might be cool. Some people might be interested to see kind of the actual scripts that we end up writing and that whole process and whatnot. So,
And actually, that thing that we played, the segment we played with Earth and God, you had like an incredible amount of like beautiful bloopers that I could cut into a
oh
reel.
yeah, I was supposed to remind you after this actually that when we upload that as a VOD to YouTube, which you can get earlier by pledging on Patreon, yeah, that you need to include the bloopers.
That could be
I
an
was sad you didn't
exclusive
put in some of
Patreon.
my. I had some of them. I was trying to make funny. They didn't end up in there. Would have kind of broken the chronology that we were loosely tying ourselves to. But whatever. Yeah.
Well, for supporters of the channel, there will be access to bloopers, possibly, maybe, probably, kind of. I
Yeah.
don't want to dedicate time.
Basically, we're gonna milk this thing for any content we can get out of it, and it's just that most of it you'll see, and some of it we'll keep for the Patreon. So, yeah, support the show. You get that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're getting pretty close to our kind of expected runtime for the show.
Oh,
So should we?
schmoozles.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. Should we kind of
God.
wrap up our thoughts so far? I have one more, maybe one or two more specific points that I want to try and crank out.
Yeah, you go in headlong.
Awesome. So, the one most novel argument for why you shouldn't pirate things. I've never seen this one before, and so I doubt you'll have heard it either. Devices with a pirated copy of software are 28 times more likely to have malware than ones with legitimate software.
Okay.
Because there's the whole stigma about pirating things is that like, oh, you're just going to get malware and there's loads of viruses and everything. But yeah, if you think about it, like this is maybe comes down to your responsibility as a pirate to keep yourself clean, to prevent all those crabs from getting in. Yeah. But like, say for instance, if you're on a shared computer, and a lot of people are in that kind of situation, or you've got your own business and you're choosing whether or not, money's a bit tight, you want to pirate software and whatnot. Malware is a real thing, and you might be just helping spread it by, maybe it won't affect your computer, but those things can jump computers. So I don't know. It's just an interesting like thought, because I've never seen a statistic about that.
Yeah.
And they estimate that, this is the BSA, again, this data is coming from, the average malware attack has been estimated to cost $2.4 million, total kind of economic cost. And there's malware attacks happening like 3 times a second,
Oh, wow.
So it's,
Yeah.
it's just kind of crazy. Malware costs apparently $600 billion from the total global economy. So
Shoot, if we could
don't
get rid of
support
malware, we
malware.
could fund universal health care in the United States.
Well, yeah, if you could actually funnel all that money directly into it, yeah. But that's
Hey,
just
we're
like, that was an
America.
interesting
We
point.
know about funneling money directly into things.
More out of things and into where no one wants it to be, but yeah, sure.
Yeah, into walls and shit.
Into the purchase of Greenland, which didn't work.
Make Greenland great
Surprise,
again.
surprise. Jesus Christ, yeah. Let's not get into that. That could be a whole topic in itself in a long future show.
Next episode, just Trump.
Yeah.
Harv and Pawn. Trump.
Okay, so here's a point that's neither here nor there. A lot of software that you might be tempted to pirate, you can get free equivalents of, which are usually pretty good. Like 3ds Max, you can get Blender. I think they're pretty much comparable, right? Yeah, Blender, like
Yeah,
that kind of
a
stuff.
Blender is a friggin', like its name tells you everything in terms of user interface design. It is a blender of UI. Like,
Yeah.
you need a
But Blender's
300-page
good, and it's
book to figure out how it works. But once it works, you can do everything.
It's getting
with it.
better. It's getting better. They brought out version 2.8 or something recently, and that's like they've made a lot of improvements. One of which I love, they finally changed the defaults for left click and right click to be more in line with every other piece of software you've ever used. Because it was always just like, yeah, you right click to like select things, and you left click to bring up an options menu. Why? So they finally changed that.
Let me interject here, Audacity. That you have to
Audacity.
select the tool in order to drag the track.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Who? What? Like, there are so many other digital audio workstations out there, so many other things. Whose brainchild was that? We'll have a specific tool just to be able to drag a track. Most basic thing. And a
yet-
person can open up the program and spend 7 minutes trying to figure out, how do I move something?
Yeah. And yet it's free, and it's pretty good. I use Audacity all the time. I think you do as well, right? Recording stuff.
I use Reaper, and it's not great either. I'm Cool Edit Pro 2000 for life.
So there's kind of another point to throw into this whole mix as we're kind of winding our way towards a conclusion. My main point to end on, this is my final one of the ones that I think are worth talking about on this argument. We didn't get into literature, so this is kind of a brief homage to that. We were talking about how disadvantaged people in like less prosperous. Oh, the kitty is on screen. Why do you do this every time I'm trying to make a serious point?
He came in, he's got near enough for me to grab him. This is Bags. This is the one that I
Hello,
shave in
Bags.
summer because he's really long-haired. So I kind of shave off of his sides, sheep shear him. He wants to go.
Bags, Bags, I love you. Please love me.
No, he's ducking under the green screen right now. He just wants to be. All right, go ahead.
All right, my very serious point. So, research published by the African Governance and Development Institute, which sounds very real, hopefully, shows that piracy increases literacy and the spread of knowledge.
Ah!
Researchers warn against the adoption of strict anti-piracy policies, but they note that not all copyright protection is bad. But scientific papers are like some of the most difficult things to get because they're all wrapped up in journals that want you to pay yearly journal subscription fees and everything. I'm just trying so hard to ignore you.
I don't know what you just said.
Yeah. Well, you can probably guess. Yeah, basically scientific literature is one of the hardest things to get sometimes. And it's also like, if anything should be freely available at all times for all of humanity, it's scientific literature. So, bit of a parallel to software there, but like, this ties in very well to the point I think you wanted to make. I'm not sure whether you got it across or not, but I know we were talking about it, which is that we wouldn't have been able to learn half of the skills that we've learned and like are now using to be these YouTube people and every other kind of software related thing we've done if we didn't have access to the software we did, which we got by pirating when we were kids and we had no money. And when you're a kid, it's a great time to learn how to use software and everything like that. So,
Yeah.
like, there's a good
Absolutely.
argument there, and that's I think that is like the single most compelling kind of. If you're ever going to pirate something that you need and that you can use to develop, like as a person and as someone who has skills.
Yeah,
Because
and you end
that
up in
shit's
the
like the most
industry,
important thing.
and then you're actually paying for the things, or you're working for someone who's paying for the licenses and stuff.
Yeah.
But you got to get the access first. In fact, we've been kind of selfish about this conversation. We haven't involved Houston at all in this thing. Houston, have you ever?
What do you think?
Yeah, have you ever involved yourself in piracy? Houston? Hello?
What? I was totally listening to you guys.
Great, thank you, Mr. Producer.
Can't get this staff these days.
Houston, have you ever involved yourself in some sort of software piracy?
Oh, well, let's look at this objectively. You two are sitting on a digitally created green screen set, graphically designed based on 50 or so Google image searches with, at best, spurious copyright concerns, doing a clip show that requires copious amounts of editing in a professional non-linear editing suite, pulling live video and audio feeds together from 2 different continents, then routing all that through half a dozen pieces of software to apply live equalization, compression, color correction, and chroma key effects in real time. My point is, you guys have, what, 2 Patreon supporters for the show so far? How in God's name are we affording this setup? And if the premise here is that I'm the guy doing all this back-end work, just so you know, I don't have a degree in anything.
What? You lied on your CV when you sent it in to us?
I told you we shouldn't have hired him.
If pirating software hadn't been my means of self-education in graphic design, 3D modeling, video production, animation, audio engineering, and God knows what else, I assure you, we would not be sitting here doing this right now.
Oh, that's a good point, I suppose. That's...
Yeah. Yeah. I kind of agree with that.
Kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
Yeah, that pretty much ties into like my final conclusions. Basically, I like went through all of the points that I found, and I, very typically, good points, bad points. We've kind of taken a smattering of both of those columns, but I think the best arguments for piracy is like accessibility for people who aren't in areas where they can access certain things, or just in general if you need something to develop yourself as a person, because like that's the most important thing you can do basically. So skills and creative development and all that stuff, that's like the shining light for why you should pirate something. The best arguments against all have a kind of common theme. So redistribution of an individual's intellectual property does significantly hurt that individual by circumventing how they might monetize it. And the second one, redistribution might cause companies to raise their prices and or make the platform worse as they try and tackle piracy. It's the redistribution, the actual act of redistributing and creating the means for other people to pirate things, which is like the most morally reprehensible part of the entire action, I think. That's kind of the conclusion I've come to. It's kind of like drug dealing. Like the drug dealer's punishable by law, but in a lot of countries, people who buy drugs from drug dealers aren't punishable by law. Like, because buying from them is not the same responsibility as actually redistributing yourself. So I think my kind of stance on the whole issue now is that, like, unless it's a form of protest, maybe like we've been talking about, don't go redistributing. But if it's for your own purposes, especially if it's kind of helping you grow as a person and your skills and everything, then sure, why not?
And for me, I fall a little bit even further to the whatever direction it would be when it comes to the idea of, yeah, just go ahead and take it. Not that far. but to the point where like we need to do something as a culture, as a global culture, to combat the continuing descent into this vicious cycle of capitalistic, just carnivorous kind of behavior. Like I said at the beginning, the internet started out as something where it was just people sharing openly, and it was like inspirational to me. It was it was like, wow, this is what it could be. This is what we could be as a race on this planet now that we're all connected. And what it has become is another giant fucking Walmart.
I mean, those places, but like you said at the start, those places still exist, but it's now a bit more like you got to know where to go and find them.
Yeah, yeah. I am in favor of piracy for protest. If you want movies, in my personal experience, like this is what I do. I won't tell you what to do, but this is what I do. If a movie's just come out, first year of its release kind of thing, or maybe even two, I'm not gonna torrent that. It's out in theaters. Like it's kind of crappy. If it's been out for a bit, especially if it's Captain Ron or The Ref or something like that, fuck you guys. The argument that, you're taking money out of the mouths of the people who made this, those people are so long gone. The people who actually made that movie do not have deals the way that Dennis Miller and that the stars had where they're
Yeah.
getting residuals off of it. The people who actually put their heart and their soul and bled and sweat in order to make these things got paid once, and that was it. So the whole moral argument there is, to me, go fuck yourself. This stuff should be falling into just the catalog of human collections of art and wisdom and knowledge and shared entertainment and stuff, and it's not because of bullshit, because people are trying to like monetize everything in perpetuity. And I'm against that. I'm so far to the left, I don't like I'm gauche because apparently that's what that means in French is left. So yeah, when it comes to that stuff, I'm like, just take it. You know when not to take it, right? Like when it's a small games developer who's trying to publish an indie kind of a thing, and it's like, don't screw them out of the $6 they're asking for the game or $12 they're asking for the game. When it's Rockstar, who just does everything horribly and treats their employees like crap and treats their customers like crap and is literally
Crunch time, boys.
manipulating the internet. And Rockstar is in, they have paid companies to monitor the torrents feeds to see who's downloading GTA, and then they grab your IP address and then they report you to your ISP. And that's creating a whole nother layer of jurisprudence where your ISP has become the worldwide internet police, which is no one gave them that authority. That's not supposed to be going on, but they've claimed it for themselves. Like, if it's a AAA developer and you either, launching it for $60 and it's just another fucking, we made another sequel to something and we just reused all the assets. Like, I don't give a shit. You know when not to steal from someone. It's when you're stealing from someone.
That's basically what it comes down to. Is like with all of the arguments we've made, it's pretty much who are you denying this money actually in reality? And an interesting fact I came across, similar to what you're mentioning about if a movie has just come out, maybe just fucking watch the movie and pay for it. But if it's been like years and there's no easy way to get it, then that money is not going to the people who made that film anymore. It's just going into the wider company's, bankroll. Interesting fact about that is that most films make the vast majority of all of their revenue in like the first 2 weeks. Because the pirate things aren't actually available in any good quality because it's shown in cinemas, and in cinemas it's like there's far fewer people, and who wants to go watch some kid's phone quality camera with like terrible audio and an audience heads in the way, So that's an interesting
and
fact.
people shouting, "Doc, you idiot! Get out! Monster's coming for you!"
And one quick, I don't want to like spiral into a whole other conversation, but quick thing as well about ISPs and whatnot. We had it in the UK, you've probably had it in America as well, that governments have gone to ISPs and said, okay, you have to block these websites. And it's interesting because I found some research from 2014 which actually showed that the kind of when that happened at the various different years it happened in the UK, I think this research was in, it worked. Like, them blocking sufficiently many streaming sites simultaneously drove up subscriptions to Netflix immediately. So that's kind of an interesting thing in the mix that, like, some of these strategies actually kind of work. But like we've been saying, to kind of wrap it all together, it's a moral argument, but it's not a morally clear-cut thing. It's very situationally dependent, and it also ties into like how much you view your group responsibility for kind of supporting piracy, and whether you are downloading it for your personal use, for academic use, skills, or whether you're just using fake moral arguments as an excuse not to pay for stuff, which, by all rights, pirating a small video game that indie developers have worked hard for, you could just give them the money that they deserve. They put their heart and soul into that stuff, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think there we go. That's piracy.
On that note,
Yar.
let's I do have one more segment to roll here. It's a brief one. Let's leave you all with something you've been waiting a very long time for, like years. Harvey finally returning to KSP. Here it is.
We now present that which has been long awaited. Harv returns to KSP. Please enjoy.
Can we just stop talking about it?
But my clothes, they're all
It's
just
fine.
drenched.
It could have happened to anyone.
Yeah, well, I had my phone in my pocket at the
No,
time,
it's
and that
fine.
means our
I backed the
photos...
photos up before.
You didn't back up the photos on my phone, though, did you,
Let's not
Pawn?
focus on it, okay? This is a happy time. Your big return to KSP. Here we are, KSP. Now just strike a pose.
Fine, how about this?
Okay.
You sure your phone is going to be good enough?
No, it's gonna come out fine. This one's got 1.3 megapixels.
1.3 megapixels, isn't that kind of on the low end?
No, I think... Oh yeah, looks great. And in 3, 2, 1...
You should have given me a chance to dry off. This is humiliating.
Thank you for joining Harv as he returned to KSP. Join us next week for another installment.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you for joining us here on Harv and Pawn. We solved the issue of piracy today.
We did. Solved it completely for all humanity, for all time.
You're welcome. And since we are doing this, good work for the sake of humanity, why not consider supporting us over on patreon.com/Harv and Pawn, where you can give an amount that you decide for yourself in order to just make sure that we don't get bored and walk off, because, we need money for this thing.
And if you don't want to tie yourself into a monthly rolling obligation, that's fine. You can just shoot us a little bit of a tip, a one-off deal, no ongoing contract, no obligations, at paypal.me/Harv and Pawn.
And thank you all for coming out. Jebby and
Thanks for watching.
734, Nokra, Mosaic Task Force, Nero the Hobbit. You're all still here right at the end. Thank you so much for sticking around for the whole show. We hope to see you back here this Wednesday at 9 p.m. BST, 4 p.m. Eastern Time in the States. I am the Ronin Pawn.
And I am HOC Gaming.
And that was Harv and Pawn, episode 00.
Harv, Pawn, Harv, Pawn, Harv and Pawn, and Harv and Pawn, and Harv and Pawn, and Harv and Pawn. Harv and Pawn!
And we are clear. Good job, I guess. I wasn't really watching.